This is the video walkthrough for IT Guru Lab 1, Introduction to IT Guru, and basically the purpose of this video is to give you a visual representation of what's going on in the written lab. So if you're having a tough time following along with the lab PDF, or if you just want to see how things work from a visual perspective as it goes along, then this video is for you, and we hope that it serves that purpose. So the first part of the lab, well, maybe I should state that the purpose of this first lab is to show you how IT Guru works, not necessarily to teach anything except for how to use IT Guru. So what we're going to be doing is configuring a small network connected to a server. We will activate application traffic across that network, and then we'll pull statistics on that traffic and see how we pull statistics and how we can interpret them once we've gathered those statistics from a scenario. And it's also to demonstrate how easy it is to analyze network topologies using network simulation, and it's much easier, much faster, and of course much cheaper than having to implement networks like that in the real world or in a real lab situation. So let's get started here. When you first open up IT Guru, you're going to hit this restricted use agreement window. And go ahead and just click that you've read the software agreement and get through that. Now first thing we need to do is create a new project. So go to File and click New. Go ahead and leave Project selected. Click OK. And let me drag my windows down here a little bit. And you will be prompted to name the project and name the scenario. In IT Guru, projects can have multiple scenarios underneath them, and so what I like to do is leave the project name kind of generic, and then the scenario name can be much more specific. So for the project name, let's just go ahead and type your last name underscore lab 1, and then for the scenario name, let's call it single network, since in our first scenario we'll be building a single network. Go ahead and click OK, and you will hit the topology wizard. It wants to help you get the workspace of your project set up. Go ahead and click Create Empty Scenario and select Next. For the network scale, choose Office and click Next. Now for the size of our grid, go ahead and leave it at 100 by 100 and click Next. Now it's going to ask us what model families that we want to use in the network. Now IT Guru has a lot of different pre-built palettes of different pieces of equipment and connections, servers, all kinds of things like that. And we could include or exclude different model families in this window based on the amount of equipment that we want to have at our disposal. You could kind of think of it as what Lego pieces do we want to have out to build our Lego fortress. That was not a very good analogy, but in this case I gave it a shot. But anyway, we're going to be using a model family that is sort of pre-configured for a tutorial like this one right here. And go ahead and go down to SMINT model list and click no once, and it'll change to a yes. So we're incorporating the SMINT model list to our project, and click Next. Go ahead and review the choices that you made and click OK. So now you see a grid and an object palette. The object palette contains all of the devices, the connections, the servers, the workstations, the applications, everything that we need to build a scenario is in this palette. And you'll see that the palette model that we selected, SMINT model list, is set here in the drop down box. The funny thing is we can always just change it if we want by dropping down this list, but for right now just leave it on SMINT model list. It has everything we need here for our scenario, and we'll get moving. Also, over here on the left side, this grid, this is our working space where we'll build our little simulated networks. and there's a variety of buttons and a variety of options in all of the menus, but we'll go through them one at a time as we need them. And in each successive lab after this lab number 1, if you need anything that wasn't discussed before, it will definitely be mentioned in the write-up. So you'll never be hit with anything that you have no idea what's going on. So the first thing we want to do is set up a small network. So there's a couple of ways to do it. I could create a switch out in my grid and then create a bunch of workstations around it and configure tiny little connections between each one, but that's a little bit tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Topology, Rapid Configuration. The Rapid Configuration tool will help us build networks of various topology configurations quickly, and it looks a lot cleaner if you do it with the Rapid Configuration tool. So for our configuration, we're going to want a star and click OK. And then it's going to ask us what devices we want in our star topology. And you'll notice that the models that are available are all devices that we have available to us in our object palette. So for the center node, which the center node of our network is going to be our switch, go ahead and choose the 3C SSI, which stands for the 3COM SuperStack switch. For our periphery nodes, we're going to want workstations that will be communicating through the switch. So choose SMINT workstation. For the number, choose 30. We're going to have 30 workstations around our 3COM switch. And for the link model, choose 10 base T. Essentially what we'll have is a 3COM switch with 30 workstations connected to it via 10 base T Ethernet. And where it says placement, go ahead and put 25 for X, 25 for Y, and 20 for the radius. And when I click OK, you'll see what that means. You'll see that the center of our topology is at 25, 25, and the nodes are surrounding it with a radius of 20. And by 25, 25, and 20, I simply mean the units that are on our grid here. So now we have a switch. We have 30 workstation nodes that are connected to the switch with Ethernet connections. And so basically we have our first little network here. Now our network needs to be able to communicate with something so that we can pull some statistics. So let's put down a server for our workstations to talk to. So over here in our object palette, left click to choose SMINT server. You'll see it gets surrounded with a little black box. Then over here on our grid, we're going to left click once to place the server down. Now you'll notice that my mouse still has a blue cube surrounding it, and that means that you're in object placement mode. So every time I left click, I keep creating more items. Now this is not what I want to do, so to get out of object placement mode, right click once and that little blue cube will go away and you'll be back into just regular old mousing select mode, which will allow you to select things and drag them around. So let me delete these extra nodes by highlighting them and just pressing my delete key on my keyboard. So we're back to our network and our server. Now in order for our server to be able to communicate with our network, it also needs to be connected to the switch. And you'll notice that over here in our object palette we have a icon for a 10 base T connection, which is a 10 base T Ethernet connection. So go ahead and select it, then left click on the server and drag the connection over to the switch and let go. Now we've got an Ethernet connection between our switch and our server. You'll see once again there's another blue line indicating that I'm in object placement mode. Right click once and it'll go away. So now we have a small network with 30 workstations, each of them communicating through a switch, and that switch is connected to a server. If we tried to run our scenario like this, it wouldn't work because we don't have any traffic configured. We have a network, we have a server, but we don't have anything that represents traffic going across this network. So in the next thing that we'll be doing in the next little portion of the video is configuring traffic to go across our network.